Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this macrame pumpkin coaster. To start, you will need some orange macrame cord. I'm using a 3mm, a tape measure, a comb, and a pair of scissors. To start, we need to cut one cord at 150 centimeters. That is 1.5 meters. We're then going to take one end of it and we're going to make a loop. So we're going to double back on ourselves and make a loop. Leave a small tail here just in front of your loop. Now we need to cut 5 other cords and they're going to all be 90 centimeters each. That's 90. With all of the measurements that I'm doing today, you can always make them longer or shorter depending on the size of the coaster that you want and if you don't want so much excess at the end. We're then going to attach all 5 of these 90 centimeter pieces onto the loop that we've just made, and we're going to attach it using the reverse lark's head knot. So to do that, we're going to fold our cord in half and slide this underneath our loop. We then take the halfway point and we fold it over the top to the front and we pull the 2 long loose ends through that gap. And this creates the reverse lark's head knot. We're going to do this 4 more times to attach it onto the loop. Once you've attached all 5 strings, we're going to pull the 1.5 meter cord to tighten up this center loop. This is going to be the center of your coaster. Once we've tightened the center of our coaster, we're going to leave the small tail and we're going to take the rest of that long 1.5 meters, and that is going to be what's known as a guide string. We are now going to make lots and lots of double half hitch knots, and we're going to do this to start forming a spiral around the center of our coaster. We're going to start off by taking the guide string and it goes over the next cord to the right. We're then going to take that cord underneath and it's going to go over the top of the guide string. So it looks a bit like a sink or a bowl. And then it goes back underneath the guide string into that sink, into that gap. And then we pull on that string to tighten it up so it goes right near the core of the coaster. Because it's a double, we're going to do that again. So we're going to take that first cord and it's going to go over the guide string, then back under the guide string into that gap, so into the sink, and then we're going to pull that first cord nice and tight. And I like to use my thumb to push these knots together, so we're kind of making like a ridged wall. Once you've done that, that first cord can go out of the way, and we've taken the guide string over the second cord. Now the second cord again is going to go over the top of the guide string to make a basin. Then it goes back under the guide string and we pull it through that gap to tighten it up. Because it's a double, we're going to do the exact same thing again and tighten it up around the base. Now we're going to keep on doing this, going around the spiral, making double half hitch knots on each of your base strings until you have a gap in between your base strings. So as you can see here, there's a gap between the guide string and the next base string. So if I were to make a double half hitch knot now, there would be quite a large gap and it will start affecting our flat coaster. So what we need to do is we need to cut and attach another cord to fill out this gap. I cut an additional cord between 70 and 80 centimeters long, and we're going to attach that cord onto the guide string using a reverse lark's head knot, exactly like we did earlier. We can then continue our spiral and continue making double half hitch knots until we reach the next gap. Once you reach the tail, we can just snip this away. I leave a very tiny length and I snip off the excess. Once you reach the next gap, again we're going to add another cord. So again, I cut a cord between 70 and 80 centimeters and I touch it onto the guide string using a reverse lark's head knot. Every time you do a round, I would drop down the cord length to about 10 centimeters less. So the first 1 or 2 rounds I would do at about 70 or 80 centimeters. The next round, the next spiral that you do, I would do between 60 and 70 centimeters and so on. It just stops the amount of excess cord that we have to snip away at the end, but you could keep it one length to make it nice and simple if you wanted to, but you may end up with quite a lot of excess cord if you do that. So we're going to continue going around making double half hitch knots on each of those base strings using the guide string to go around in a spiral, and we add in extra cords every time there is a gap. Now I finish my coaster when it's roughly about 11 centimeters in diameter. You can make this wider or smaller if you want to, by either doing less double half hitch knots, or you can carry on and make more. Once you're happy with the size of your coaster, we're going to trim away the excess cords. I like to leave a couple of centimeters in length around my coaster, and then I snip off all of the excess. You can get a template to make sure that you're making a perfect circle here, but I tend to just do this by eye. Once you've cut all the excess cord, we're then going to get a comb or a brush and we're going to brush out those ends. This will make a lovely frayed tassel effect. I like to then go back in and cut any lengths that might be slightly irregular. To keep that lovely fringing effect nice and neat, you can always give it a little spray with starch. To then make the lovely pumpkin face, we need either some black cloth or black felt, and we're going to design our pumpkin face. I like to draw on the face using some chalk, but you could always use some pens as well. And then we're going to cut out the design. I'm making 2 large triangles for the eyes, 1 smaller triangle for the nose, and then a spiky mouth. You could always play around with different expressions. Once you've cut the face out and you're happy with the way it looks, we're going to take a hot glue gun and we're going to stick down all of the shapes. Please be careful of the hot glue gun, as this can easily get on your hands. If you do accidentally burn yourself, run your fingers under cold water for a few minutes. And if you're doing this craft with children, please make sure that it's under adult supervision and that the adult is using the hot glue gun. You can make a whole set of these in different colours with different faces on to make some lovely Halloween coasters. For more Halloween and autumnal tutorials, like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know down in the comments what you thought and if you're going to be making any coasters yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.